So the first rule we come across is the product rule. This means that if you've got a function which is a product of two separate functions, then to find the derivative, you take the first of those functions and multiply it by the derivative of the second. Then you add this to the second function times the derivative of the first, and that gives you the overall derivative. Alternatively, you can just expand out the brackets of the function if it's just a polynomial function. Okay, so first of all, we have a function which is a product of two functions, this first one and this second one. So what we could do is we start labeling the first one u and the second one v. It's probably easier just to remember this. By the way, the product rule is in your tables, so it's in the log tables. It's just going to be the first by the derivative of the second plus the second by the derivative of the first. So let's just work through this for this sum. Our dy dx is going to be the first, which is 2x cubed minus 3x plus 4 times the derivative of the second function. Well, the derivative of this green function here is just 2. The derivative of minus 1 is just 0. Okay, if we follow the rules up here. Okay, so that is the first by the derivative of the second. Now what I need to do then is add on the second function, which is 2x minus 1, times the derivative of the first. Well, the derivative of the first function, which is this yellow function here, is just going to be, bring the 3 to the front, that's 6x squared minus, that's 3x to the power of 1, so that's minus 3. Okay, so the overall derivative of that function is just the sum of those two terms. If I expand the brackets here, that's just going to be 4x cubed minus 6x plus 8. And if I expand the brackets here, that's going to be plus 2 by 6 is 12x cubed minus 6x minus 6x squared plus 3. And when we combine all those terms, that is just going to give me 16x cubed minus 6x squared. We've got minus 6x, so that's minus 12x plus 8 plus 3, which is plus 11. Now, if you had multiplied out these two terms together first, multiplied them by each other, and then derived that function, this is also what you would get. So we're going to use the product rule again, except now I'm going to introduce the page in the tables where all this can be found, and then go through a harder sum. So I've just moved a few things around there and brought in the tables. So we're going to use the product rule to derive this function here, x times sine of x. The important thing to note is that in your tables it says if the function is sine of x, then the derivative is just cos of x. So it's going to be the first, which is x, times the derivative of the second. Well, I've just seen there the derivative of sine of x is cos of x, so it's x times cos of x plus the second, which is sine of x, times the derivative of the first. So derivative of x is just 1. So the derivative of that function is just x cos of x times cos of x plus sine of x. It looks a bit long-winded, but that is just what the derivative of that function is, using the product rule. So the next one we're going to move on to is the quotient rule. Again, the rule looks a little bit long-winded, but it's just when your function is a fraction of terms. Here we've called them u and v. I've also just written out how to derive it just underneath. So we're going to look at the example here, where y is 4x minus 1 divided by x squared plus 2. So our rule states we take our fraction, we take the denominator of the fraction, which is the bottom part, and we multiply it by the derivative of the top to start with. So the bottom part, our denominator of a fraction here, is x squared plus 2. So I'm going to be multiplying that by the derivative of the top. So the derivative of 4x minus 1 is just 4. Then I'm going to subtract the top, which is 4x minus 1, our numerator, by the derivative of the bottom. The denominator is x squared plus 2, so the derivative of that is bring the 2 to the front, that's just 2x. And then what you do is you just divide that all by the bottom part to be squared. So all I'm going to do is just going to tidy up the top part here. We've got 4x squared plus 2 we've got 4x squared plus 8 minus 8x plus 2, all divided by x squared plus 2 all to be squared. And that just tallies up to 4x squared minus 8x plus 10 all divided by x squared plus 2 all to be squared. Okay, so I'm not going to expand that any further. There's not going to be any common factors there which allow me to simplify that down.